And our special focus in India decides tonight. Pranab versus Chidambaram. Sonia plays peacemaker. Will that succeed? Also tougher charges against A. Raja. Is the CBI now desperate to salvage a case which is falling apart in front of them? Joining me for more on that, I'll be joined in just a short while by Abhishek Manu Singhvi, National Spokesman of the Congress. But joining me first on the fresh charges against Mr. Raja is his lawyer, Mr. Sushil Kumar, who joins me in studio. Thank you, sir, for coming in. Also joining me is Mr. Karthikeyan, former director of the CBI, and D. Raja, National Secretary of the CPI. Sir, as lawyer for Mr. Raja, we've heard that Mr. Raja, of course, is arguing his defence himself much of the time. What do you think of these fresh charges?
That was filed only today, at the beginning of the proceedings, because CBI feels that if offences are punishable up to 7 years, court may grant them bail. So to frustrate that, at the last minute, after 8 months of his custody, they are going to add section 409, subject to court's order.
Will this only affect Mr. Raja, Mr. Bahura and Mr. Chandolia, or does it affect all the accused?
It will affect all the 17 accused because it is read with conspiracy.
Let me just go across to Mr. Karthikeyan. We've already heard some of the opposition questioning why these charges have suddenly appeared. Is this part of political pressure? Why would the CBI suddenly come up with these charges much after the trial has begun? Why not file them in the first place?
Well, you know, the whole day I've been busy in a conference in Ahmedabad. I don't know what happened in the case in Delhi. I've just been brought before the camera here.
Yes.
And if you ask me a general question, well, the CBI can always do further investigation and keep filing supplementary charge sheets at any time.
Right. So you're saying
the investigation, yes, charge sheet is filed. If they come to know more facts, more evidence, and if those evidence reveals the commission of any more offences, and certainly they are entitled to, investigating agency can file supplementary charge sheet.
So you're saying the timing is not suspicious. I'm just going to go across to Mr. Sushil Kumar on that. But first, just to go across for this interview with Mr. Abhishek Singhvi, who joins us now. Mr. Singhvi, of course, my focus with you is on a slightly different issue, not just on these charges, which I know as a lawyer you will say is sub judice at this point, but on the political war that we're currently witnessing. It seems clear there is a rift out in the open. Sonia Gandhi meeting both Mr. Chidambaram and Pranab Mukherjee. What about the disarray within? What is the message this is sending out, and what is the impact on governance?
Sonia, don't brush aside the thing that a court proceeding is not just a technical citation of the sub judice rule. It's very unfortunate that as a matter is being heard last Wednesday, Thursday, tomorrow, Tuesday and onwards, on precisely the same issue, all of us are expected to opine, with Mr. Subramaniam Swamy leading the charge, then what are the courts for? So that's regrettable. I totally disagree. But let's come to the point.
Yes.
What is this whole crisis except a very febrile and a very fertile imagination of the opposition? Certainly, nothing new has been said in the 25th March note except a factual summary. Along with that, what is creating a problem is some judgmental sentences by a relatively junior officer. Now, if the finance minister wants to make some statement, which he may choose to, or a comment, or whatever he may choose to, surely he is entitled to meet his own prime minister. He is entitled to meet his own party chief. Here we have the moment and he's away, remember, abroad where all this happens.
Yes.
This is his first day back. He comes back, he meets his party chief. Immediately we have a swirling of allegations which are nothing but wishful thinking. Mr. Chidambaram has resigned. Mr. Chidambaram is about to resign. There's a huge rift out there. What has changed, A, since the RTI response of the 25th March came out, and what has changed since he came back? After all, if he doesn't talk to his own Prime Minister and his party chief, and is merely meeting them, creates a crisis in the media, is this the way to govern?
No,
would you rather have him say what he wants to say without meeting anybody?
No, but Mr. Singhvi,
so I would call it
is
pure sensationalism.
Yes,
pure
if this is just pure sensationalism, if this is a crisis created by the media and the opposition, why would Sonia Gandhi be meeting them both within a span of 20 minutes of each other? Surely there is some issue. Why is it the fact that Mr. Chidambaram has issued a statement saying that he is keeping his silence till the Prime Minister returns? He's not saying that all is well. Mr. Pranab Mukherjee has made it a point, not once, but 3 days in succession, to make the point of what a valued colleague Mr. Chidambaram is. If all was well, why is all this going on within the government itself? Why did Pranab Mukherjee fly to Washington to meet the Prime Minister earlier than scheduled?
That's the whole point I've answered, Sonia. obviously to discuss the issue.
So there is
Why
an
can't
issue.
I am putting 1 minute. I am putting a very clear statement before you.
Yes.
Meeting the Prime Minister and discussing the allegations of the opposition, or meeting the party chief of his own party and discussing the opposition's allegation is not a crisis, except in the febrile and fertile imagination of the media, which must keep 24/7 running.
NDTV's cricket app, Android and iPhone. Fastest scorecard, special analysis, and much more. Download free. ndtv.com/apps.